What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Picks and Roll DFS. Yesterday, we ended the day 1-0 with Marina Mabrey cashing her lower on the rebounds plus assists. Now, we're just waiting on the other two plays tonight. The good news? The books haven't adjusted yet. So if you missed yesterday's video, you can still go back and watch it and grab that two-man at the same price. That's the advantage of being in a niche market like the WNBA. Softer lines, sharper plays. If you're tailing those picks, hit the like button right now and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out as we head into the busiest sports months of the year. Quick bankroll tip. Always diversify your slips. Don't overload everything into a 1-3-man or 4-man. Take advantage of promos when they're there. On Betr, if you're a new user, you can lock in a free Angel Re-Square at just 0.5 points plus assists. That's basically a free square to pair with tonight's board. And if you sign up with code DIME, you'll also get a free month in my Winnable VIP where I send premium plays directly to your phone. All you'll have to do is send me a screenshot of your sign up to picksandrolldfs@gmail.com. All right, let's get into today's two-man. And then I'll also give you my unofficial play for today as well. First, we have Jonquel Jones going higher than 1.5 3-pointers made. So if we look at her data, we can start with the last 10 games, and we can see that she has been shooting the ball with confidence lately. In her last 10 games, she has averaged 2.6 threes with a median of 3, going above the line of 1.5 threes, 8 out of 10 of her last games for an 80% hit rate, with some skyrockets at 4 3-pointers against the Sparks on the 12th of August, and even 5 against the Sky on the 21st of August. Then, we could even go even further. We can see in her last 20, she's gone above this line at a 65% hit rate, hitting 13 out of 20 of her last games. And then specifically head-to-head, which is what we want to look at now, we can see that she did not hit in her matchups earlier this season. These were some of the games where she went below, but we can also see last season against Washington, she did go well above this line. And it's always a law of averages, right? We can't focus on recency bias. Yes, we can see in the 2 matchups this year, that this was early, right? This is May 30th, June 5th. We can look at that last 20, and we can see the last game that we have here is June 5th, and look at the change since then, right? Significant growth and consistency, and this is what I'm talking about with the shooting the ball with more confidence as the season went on. Those early lines, different part of the season. She's been more relied on in terms of hitting those threes. People are collapsing on Sabrina. People are collapsing on Breanna Stewart. You bring 2 down, Jonquel pops out. That's a 3-point opportunity. We can also see, in terms of defense, this is where you may get a little apprehensive. We can see that Washington is 4th in 3-pointers allowed to bigs, and that's where you may draw some concerns. But as we see from the beginning of the season, like that one game where she did not successfully meet the mark, she was only playing 5.8 minutes in that game, right? Not going to really do much with 5.8 minutes or 6 minutes. But as the season grew, so did her minutes, and that's where the attempts grow. She's averaging about four to five 3-point attempts per game, and she's nearly 50%. And all we need is 2. So the line looks solid for us to hit that mark, even noticing that Jonquel Jones has exceeded 1.5 3-pointers in 5 of her last 6 games. And then the most recent data for a center going against Washington and hitting their line for threes was A'ja Wilson, who's also been greatly improving in her 3-point attempts and makes, especially like if you saw last night's game, she hit a few of them. She also cashed her line against Washington just on the 23rd. And this is why I like her higher than 1.5 3-pointers made. Now, don't just tell my picks blindly. Do your own research too. I know that I break down my reasons for doing it, but I want you to do the same thing. You can also use Outlier to look at hit rates, matchup data, and even line movement. It makes you a sharper bettor. If you want to start using it yourself, check out the link in the description and use my code LOB. Second pick for today. We have Dominique Malonga going lower than 7.5 rebounds. Now, a thing to note about the Suns, the Seattle Storm, one of the things that's really important is we are in the playoff rush right now, the playoff hunt. And the Seattle Storm are in that picture. So they are going to be doing everything they can to win out, win as many games as possible. Unfortunately, right now, or tonight, they have one of the most difficult matchups playing the people who are favored to be the champions this year, or predicted to be the champions, the Minnesota Lynx. One of the bright spots for the Storm right now is Dominique Malonga. She has been very hot. She's been a shining newcomer for the team, especially lately. You'll see in some of the data that I'll show for at least rebounds that she has been someone they've relied on lately, which is probably part of the reason why, like, Gabby Williams the other night did absolutely terrible, because they could also rely on other people like Dominique. Although I'm giving some glowing reviews of Dominique Malonga, today we are taking her lower on her rebounds, and you'll see why in a moment. First, obviously, we can look at that line comparison. We can see that on major sports books like FanDuel, and again, FanDuel is one of the best places to line compare for WNBA. It's one of the sharper books for line comparisons for the WNBA. Obviously, Pinnacle is like the top of the top, but when we're looking at Outlier, you definitely want to look at like DraftKings and FanDuel and see if your lines compare to those. And as we can see here, FanDuel has his favorite at -152. Hard Rock Bet, -140. DraftKings, -145. Caesars, -145 as well. And then where we are looking right now, Underdog, -174. So huge favorite, and you'll see why in a moment. So let's look at the season as a whole. We can see in the beginning, Dominique A wasn't getting a lot of minutes, right? We can see this just in this graph below. But this as well, up top for the rebounds and hit rate, we can also see with little minutes came little production. Then around July, her minutes started to increase. And we can see this so that her production, especially in terms of rebounds. But at a whole, for this season, she's averaging about 4.68 rebounds a game, and then the median, even with these high marks of 10 and 11 and 12, she's still only averaging a median of 4. She's gone below that line of 7.5 rebounds, 28 out of 38 games for a 74% rate. And because we have this larger sample size of the majority of the season, it's better to look at that instead of like last five, which then can sometimes lead to recency bias, right? This line is priced at this 7.5 because look at this average and median. You go on sports books like PrizePicks, you see these last five, you see 7, 7, 9, 2, 6, you see this big red in the middle, it may lead you to go to that over, which is why they priced the line at 7.5. Then you would also maybe go to head, and then you'll see in 3 games this year, she's going well below. But then we also just mentioned that around this time of May and June, she was nowhere near the playing time to even possibly achieve that mark. The only one that would make sense to look at would be here, and she still went well below that line, which is why I wanted to show you the year as a whole. Additionally, when it comes to rebounds to centers, the Lynx allow the fewest rebounds to centers in the league. They are ranked number 1 in that category. Maybe because they have Feast down there and Alana Smith, who grab the rebounds for themselves. We can also see that a lot of the centers who go against the Lynx are not hitting, or they are hitting their unders for rebounds. The only ones who didn't were recent Brittany Griner went above and Jonquil Jones went above. And I'd be interested, and this will be some additional research, was Feast back yet for either of these games? But then you can see Jonquil Jones went above one time, but then the last 2 matchups, or last 3 matchups, she didn't. And then we can also see from Outlier's Insights that Dominique Malonga has exceeded 3.5 rebounds in 7 of her last 8 games. First bottom 5 defenses, averaging 7.2. So again, still below that line that we're looking for, which is why I feel confident in her lower than 7.5 rebounds. All right, so these are just a couple of my plays I'm on today. But remember, my full card has even more plus EV plays every night. Inside my winnable, I post the full breakdowns and send picks directly to your phone. Right now, you can still grab the founder deal, $30 a month instead of $50, but that deal ends September 3rd. Don't wait until NFL starts and spots are gone. Lock in your membership now with code FOUNDER on Winnable. All right, and I have one more unofficial play for you today. And I'm going back to the well. One of my favorite plays to use. Angel Reese will get a double-double tonight. Now, I made it unofficial for really one reason. The Sky will not make the playoffs. They have already been eliminated. The Lynx will. The Sky, especially players like Angel Reese, really have nothing to play for. The Lynx still have something to play for, right? There are also players who are also fighting for playing time. Like there are some Sky players fighting for spots, right? Like those type of like contingencies and like those things matter. But this could be a blowout one way or another. And I'm concerned about her minutes. And that's why I made this an unofficial play. Now, they play this game all the way through, playing their natural minutes. So if we see Angel Reese playing around 32 minutes, I'm fairly confident that she'll hit this mark. But if she plays anything lower, it's reason for concern. We can see when she played in July, she played 36 minutes, as well as here, 34, 30, even in a blowout. So, as long as she's playing those minutes, I think we'll be okay. Phoenix is who she played. And then same thing, though. 32, 34, 33. But then here's this outlier, right? The Suns, well, I say the Suns. That's not the right Phoenix. But when she played the Mercury, last time they played in June, they got destroyed. They lost by 21 points. She only played 21 minutes. So that's the concern here. Sorry, I was talking about the Lynx. Either way, Phoenix, my apologies. Phoenix also has made the playoffs. So, like, that's not really a concern for them in terms of playing time. So the concern was still real. Will they play the entire time, or will this just be a blowout and then the Sky kind of bow out early? So that is the only reason why I am making this an unofficial play. But I always go to the well with Angel Reese in the double-double. Her and her rebounds, it's hard to deny. We can see just on some of the stats, right? She's gotten a double-double in 80% of her last 5, 90% of her last 10, 85% of her last 20, 75% of the head-to-head matchups with Phoenix. And again, we just saw the one game right here where she did, and that's because that was a blowout. And then on the season, 75% rate. And the line is juiced to 200. And we can also see FanDuel has it juiced to minus 210. So that is why it's an unofficial play, but one of the plays that I really, really love. And don't forget, you also have the free pick to Betr if you are a new user, where Angel Reese only needs to have 1 point or assist to win. So to recap today's plays, we have Jonquil Jones going higher than 1.5 3-pointers made. We have Dominique Malonga going lower than 7.5 rebounds. And then our unofficial play is Angel Reese going higher than 0.5 double-double. Now, if you found this helpful, make sure you smash that like button, drop a comment below with your favorite play of the day, and hit subscribe so you don't miss a video. Let's build that roll.